I guess. Oh,
What's
geez.
that?
Hey,
Let me
go
ask
Can you
ahead.
that
turn yourself
question.
down a little, Josh?
I don't
I'm
know
trying
how.
to. I'm just doing this setup, but it's weird.
Hmm?
It's like there's just one thing that's not quite. Oh yeah, look at dots.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Wow. Oh, welcome. It's
Is it,
welcoming.
what is it saying?
It just said welcome, and then there's like a little bit of like a. Oh, and then I've got to click accept here. Okay, great. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Shit.
Wait. Are you able to see us in the Apple's eyes or whatever the fuck they're called?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah. I'm taking a picture of you guys right now. Let's see. Yes, I will
Oh
allow
shit.
using app. Okay. Yes. Okay, great.
Apple
Okay, so
Vision Pro.
tap. Okay, so I just took a picture.
Nice.
Now, now I'm gonna look at it.
You just
Oh
get these
shit. Wait,
today
what
or
happened?
something?
Oh shit, this is so crazy. I just took a picture of like what I'm looking at right now, and now I've made the picture, in immersive view, so it takes over the entire field of view, like I took the picture. So now I have an overlay of exactly what is in front of me, but if I move my head, it blurs so that the reality is still there, but there's like the picture version of it is moving around. It's insane.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Can you wear those throughout the whole
Yeah.
podcast? Is that
I,
like,
I mean, I probably won't, but I mean, it's definitely yeah. I mean, you could definitely do it. It's kind of like yeah. The pass through is like pretty good. Um, yeah, I would say like I mean, you move the crown. Where's the crown? I think you rotate it for like I can do full VR or I can do. Let's see. How do you? Oh, that's how you get out of there. Okay. Yeah. How do we? Okay. That's the one thing I don't know how to do is like get the hell out of here.
all right, well, here, figure that out. Well, I need a second to look over this album because I thought we were recording at 4. So I'm like, oh, okay. I've listened to it a million times, but all the notes and everything are just like, there's so much when you're talking about this. Um, can I ask you a question? What's the latest you've ever been to an appointment? Did
I don't hear him either.
oh, okay. I got I got an hour.
Oh, we can't hear you, Reggie. We don't hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, was I
There you
just
go.
not? I was
No,
totally like talking into air.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that.
All
Okay, I'm
good.
just get this off my head. This is amazing. This is crazy. Okay, I'm going to. How do you power it off? Let's see. I think you just press and hold. Is that correct? No, press. Oh, okay. No, that's okay. I'll figure it out later. I think if I just take it off, it will. Wow. Pretty
Welcome
impressed.
back.
I'm impressed.
Welcome back, bud, into the regular verse. There you go. Yeah, you definitely need a little, like, just a little something to take the edge off after coming back into reality. It's like a cryo chamber.
I know, I know. Tell me. Oh, sorry. Let me just say this in Canadian. Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. Yeah, dude, you're back. You're back on the pod, man, and you get a good run of records. You really do. Like you
Yeah,
got good, you got good. Yeah, I think so. I think you don't think Wings and Band on the Run and U2 War is like
yeah, of course.
that's come on, man. I mean, this isn't Billy Blue Bland, which we have to
No.
record in 2 days. That I have no idea who the fuck's gonna do. You know what I mean? It's. I think there's
Yeah,
there's
I
like
I get it.
you're getting 2 records with like a lot of thick to it, a lot of story, a lot of love. I mean, and also what I thought was I still think about this that you said that you are not a fan of the Beatles, but you're a fan of Wings. It's like I
That's
think you're the only guy.
yeah. Yeah, well, me and Alan Partridge.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, no, he made that comment on the show on the Alan Partridge show, that British show, where he plays a radio DJ, and he was just like the Wings, the band the Beatles could have been, is what he says.
It's a great line.
That's a pretty good line. Yeah, I don't know what it is about. I think Wings transports me a lot more. Like it makes me. It's a little bit more of a solid, cohesive vision, like
Yeah.
world-wise. The Beatles are amazing because they went through a lot of incarnations, many incarnations, and and produced like incredible music. I mean, like without a doubt, incredible music. But for whatever reason, when I was growing up, I didn't really hear the Beatles that much. I heard more Wings than I heard Beatles, and I didn't collect the records. Um, I didn't really know about any of the classic bands. I didn't know about the Who. I didn't know about Led Zeppelin. I didn't know about the Monkees. I didn't know about the whoever back then. I saw, like in rock and roll compilation things, it'd be like the Beatles, or it's like Jim Croce or whatever. But I really didn't. Yeah, it was kind of strange. I didn't really hear of them until much, much, much later at a party. This guy played, I think, Sergeant Pepper's or something like that. But I don't know what his Wings is, just a little bit more. I can get into it.
It's got a little zhuzh to it. There's a little more zhuzh in Wings compared to the Beatles. The Beatles are just straightforward, brilliant rock, but I think there's something to really appreciate when you're talking about what Paul McCartney. It's like Paul McCartney trying to do the opposite of the Beatles, but in a sense, just taking what he did with the Beatles and making it almost better. Especially those first few records. And then to come back on and talk about arguably, the biggest band of our lifetime. I'm 44, and I don't think there's many bands bigger than U2. The ones that, yes, they've had a couple dips in their career, like the pop really like that was just like terrible for them, and I don't think that really, that was kind of like the moment where they had to almost reinvent themselves, which they did with the Beautiful Day, and now they've reinvented themselves again with the Sphere. But this is like, I'd say, who's bigger than U2 in the last 40 years?
As a band, there's very few bands. You could kind of say like Aerosmith. You could kind of say, but U2's like massive. Like everyone knows them, and then some people also find them very annoying because Apple forced them on everybody.
Yes, they did. I remember that.
What the hell are you doing, man? It's like, let me. My mind, my ears, my choice. I
remember that, dude. People really got mad about that. People really did not want that fucking album.
I'm still mad. It still plays on my phone.
Yeah, it still does. It still plays. Sometimes I plug in my phone. Yeah, and I go to CarPlay, and it's like the first thing it starts playing. It's just like, and I'm like, why?
It wasn't even a good record.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's like I love U2, but I'm, my era, I'm thinking about like Joshua Tree and Boy.
Yeah.
Those were the records for me that really, because they were still in their kind of experimental phase. And they were also, I saw that, was it kind of like a mini doc that Bono did with The Edge recently?
Oh, I don't know.
It's like a little mini, like they come back to Dublin. And they do a show in this space that I think they did when they were younger, like a younger band. The other two guys aren't in the film because they were both doing like their own art films or something at the time. So it was just Bono and Edge. But it was cool to hear them. I wish they would have went in more depth. It's just a little shallow on some of the information. But I wish they would have gone into depth about how they came from, Ireland back that time was such in turmoil. And Dublin was not anything even remotely close to what it is today. And there was a lot of oppression and there was a lot of resentment, and they were coming out of that. And that's why that they had that kind of like revolutionary leader kind of vibe, Bono with the huge flag, at Red Rocks and all that stuff. And obviously, Sunday Bloody Sunday was a tragic event, and that's what he was talking about. But so it's cool, like they're a band that kind of came out of a revolutionary fight, like a resistance fight, in a way. They I don't know, they symbolized that. So that's like where they came from. And I think if people understood that a little bit more, they might, I mean, obviously music's music, you're going to like it or you're not going to like it, but it's nice to have context.
And I feel like U2 does need context because there is a seriousness with this band that, there's nothing tongue in cheek with U2. It is very serious. It's like when bringing it back to Paul McCartney, even with Paul McCartney, like he has an era in his career where he's like, no, I'm just a jiggly sniggly and I'm having a puppet and he's just cute and he's like, there's something about him that is like that's like he can laugh at himself. And whether it was the stuff he did with Dana Carvey later in his career or even just like now, but U2, I mean, everything about this band is like, I mean, one of the first jokes I ever wrote that got laughs was, I'm not going to do the bit, but it was just the premise is that like the point of being a rock star is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I doubt Bono has done any of them. Like the rock and roll, yes, but not the sex and the drugs. And if he did have sex, I bet he would make it very awkward. And then the whole joke is just him comparing everything to like something that's going on in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, yes.
And it was the first joke that I ever did that got a huge, huge laugh. And it's because there is nothing like, dude, if you think about the progression of the records up until the one we're talking about, the first one is about childhood, which is it's just heavy shit. The second one, what is the second album is what, The Innocent Flame? Is that it? Jared, check that out while we do that. Yeah, whatever that's about, another one about innocence, and this one's about war. Yes. And then the next thing, which is Joshua Tree. Yeah, with Josh, which find out what that's about too, JT. I'm pretty sure October. But then the Joshua Tree, which I think is the next record after this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, the third record, I think.
But yeah, well, no, there's War, then Unforgettable Fire, then Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So you have Under the Blood Sky, then you have the Red Rocks. And Jesus Christ, then you have the Unforgettable Fire. Oh my God, how many fucking
four albums before Joshua Tree.
Then you have Wide Awake. That Joshua Tree came out in '87. I'll just never forget how big Joshua Tree was.
Oh my God,
dude! And Reggie, huge. I was 7, 8 years old, like when that came out, and I remember still going into my doctor's office, like my pediatrician, and he had a poster of the album cover for Joshua Tree up in the background, and I remember hearing With or Without You, Where the Streets Have No Name. I mean, just such an incredible record from top to bottom. But it's like it's like there has never been anything funny about this band whatsoever.
No. The closest you get is what was the tour they did? Zoo?
Yes, the Zoo. It was Zooropa, and then there was
Zooropa or something like that. And that was the first. Pop. Yeah, there was that one too. Those were a little tongue in cheek in that they're making fun of like, the modern overconsumptive media landscape. So it was that was a little bit of tongue in cheek, but that's a tour concept, not necessarily an album concept. So, I mean, that's a different thing, but I think you're right about all their shit, like Achtung Baby, Rattle and Hum for sure. I mean, Zooropa was maybe Zooropa, but there was something there. They were trying something different there. I think that they were like coming up with something, and I don't really know that album that well because really the albums I listen to the most is Joshua Tree for sure, which is kind of over obvious, but and War. Those were the ones that I remember the most that my friends were listening to back in high school because I was in high school 86 to 90. So these, Joshua Tree came out exactly at the right time for me in high school. And you're right. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, they had that Beatles moment, being on top of the building, and thousands of people showing up for that, like that was, they were huge.
Reggie, even take it to their Super Bowl halftime show. It's like where everybody is doing something fun, and it's just like, I mean, even like Prince, like, playing in the rain with the purple thing, just killing it. And it's like, but the seriousness of U2's, and yes, it happened to be right after 9/11, so there's that on top of it. And it couldn't have been a more perfect band to do the Super Bowl halftime show after 9/11. But them ending with "Where the Streets Have No Name" and him throwing open his jacket, having the American flag in it, I still watch that. I still get emotional. I think Prince is the best halftime show of all time. Actually,
Yeah.
Beyonce's the best. My favorite is Prince. And then but I would say those are the top three. I think you got Prince, Beyonce, U2, and I know people want to say Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop Dogg, but
No,
I didn't. It was cool, but nah, it wasn't the other ones.
well, it was also historical. You know what I mean? Like there was a purpose behind it. That, you know what I mean? Like there was a thing behind what they were doing, as opposed to here's a presentation of something I want to do. Like an artist, like we're going to perform the halftime, so here's the halftime show. Whereas that's like, yeah, they made a show, but it was also about history and lineage and all of that stuff, which was cool, but it's not a pure, whatever, that word's loaded, but whatever. I'm just saying, saying, like, it's more like, here's a show, and here's what we're thinking now, which is a little bit different. So I agree with you on that.
So where are you with U2? So you're in high school. I mean, not when this record came out. You're in high school when the Joshua Tree comes out. Was that the first time you heard them?
First time, no. I think I saw, was it Sunday Bloody Sunday was off of, was it War?
That's off of this record, yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, there we go. Right. So I remember seeing that video of them at Red Rocks and him waving that flag. And yeah, that's the first time I heard U2. It was, I mean, like, the 80s just had this fucking, I don't know. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Just the Super Bowl halftime show, so cool. Them doing "Where the Streets Have No Name." Here's what's funny about that. If anybody, all the Fleece Army out there, if you want to just catch up what we're talking about, the halftime show right after 9/11, "Where the Streets Have No Name," they have all the names of the people that died at the Pentagon and the World Trade Center on this big screen behind him. The thing drops as they get into the final chorus, and then it's like just that final note. He opens up his jacket. It's the American flag. When I started doing the goddamn Comedy Jam, and we wanted to do this thing, or I wanted to do this thing where we did "Where the Streets Have No Name," and then right at the end, like all this smoke would come onto the stage, and then it would suddenly clear, and instead of me holding up a jacket with an American flag, it was just me Buffalo Billing it with my penis tucked between my legs and like a mussy. Oh my God,
that would be the same.
And I said that to Burr. I go, yeah, I'm going to do that. And he goes, no. He's like, I'm not doing the show if you do that. Okay, I guess you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's an idea.
Really? That's so surprising. Burr would not be into that? That's weird. First, like the first person you think of when you think of something like that. I'm not into it.
Don't do that shit around me, bro. No. But this is the thing, is that everything about them, I love their music. I remember, when I was going through my existential crisis on life, and I remember listening to that song over and over, and just to cry because it's so powerful. There's everything about U2. There's no lighthearted songs. They're always even if it sounds lighthearted, there's a deeper message in there. And when we're talking about this record, I mean, every song on here is fucking heavy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This the other thing about like Joshua Tree specifically is like "Bullet the Blue Sky." That song, I don't know what it just really grabbed my imagination because it was so like political, and it kind of like gave you this sense of like the stupidity of war, and how it's merged with business, and it's a business is what war is ultimately. And it's just like, yeah, I can see those fighter planes. I can see those fighter planes counting them down 100, 200, like he's talking about money and like the associating it to these war machines. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, holy shit, that's what that blew me away. And I wanted, we would play like, my band would play covers and would play U2 shit. It was yeah, I mean, with or without you, I mean, it's such a beautiful song, and like,
Beautiful. What was your high school band's name?
Autumn Asylum.
Autumn Asylum. And
Yeah,
are you lead singer? Or are you multi instrumentalist?
lead singer and keyboard bassist. Yeah,
Lead singer, keyboard, bassist. So this is. I'm thinking you're doing with or without you. I mean, are you? Would you say post punk? Are you a post punk new? I mean, 87, 88,
yeah,
89. I
yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
what were your biggest
Yeah,
influences?
we definitely you two was an influence. I would say, yeah, it was a weird confluence. It was like I think that our influences were the Smiths, The Cure,
Yeah,
um, a little bit of Chili Peppers, just because of Higher Ground was popular at the time,
yeah.
and I loved that take on it. And a little bit of, I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I'd say probably definitely more post-punk, kind of like, not, I mean, emo didn't exist at that time, but just kind of like emotion, like melancholic music, like the Smiths are very like, I call it luxury or indulgent melancholia.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Oh,
essentially,
very.
that's like the basis of goth, basically. It's
Yeah,
like mixed with that, like, gory wood block prints, and and just like what do we call it, just kind of esoteric, and then, like, and a little bit of just darkness in general, and then like add that melancholic, like that indulgentness underneath it. That's kind of like the sum of what drove what we did. I don't think it came across that way, and I don't think the picture of the band definitely shows that at all. But we were going for something. There was a song that we did called She Stands, which I wrote about my friend Melanie at the time, and we had this unrequited thing, and she was lit. We were all on acid. I was inside my friend's car on the driver's side, and then my friend Doug, who played guitar in the band, was in the passenger side, and they were looking out the window. We were both looking out the window, and Melanie was dancing under the only street light, because my friend in Montana, he lived out of town, and they
yeah.
ran a graveyard, and so their parking lot was all gravel, and they had like one of those old like country houses, and so it's gravel, and there's just one, post with a light on it, and that was it. Everything else was like, people were miles away, and so it's just this one light. She's underneath it. It starts drizzling, and she's dancing, and she's like, she looks like a pixie fairy with like really long silver blonde, like platinum hair that goes down to about her mid thigh, and she's just like dancing around in the rain, and he's playing this song, and I'm like writing, "She stands so peacefully."
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like the typical like high school lyric. It's like lying awake in bed, all these thoughts going through my head. There's always thoughts going through your head in bed. It's
Yeah,
like that's every
there are a
every
lot of thoughts.
But and you know what's funny? It's like there's never, even from the beginning of U2, I wouldn't say there was ever a grace period of them having that awkward figuring it out. It felt like this is a band that knew what the fuck they wanted to do, whereas the first album was very post-punk, and they start transitioning. I didn't listen to the second record, so I really don't know, but I mean,
I can't wait to start listening to it. I'm the same.
yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it.
October. Is there anything? Yeah, I don't. Fire. I've heard of that,
Let's
but
see,
but
October.
but War, dude. War is. I
War is
mean,
ill.
is an album of. So here, Jared, do you have all the stuff? Because I didn't really get a chance to look over any of this stuff,
I
dude.
will follow. It's
That's Boy. I will follow Boy. This
yeah.
is. So
You're
let's see.
talking about which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about War. So this is their
War,
third
sorry.
record. This is their third record, and the one that began to put them on the map before becoming one of the biggest bands of the 80s. None of these songs were huge hits, but they all earned some airplay and energized the band's live shows, which were still at theaters and similar-sized outdoor venues at this point. Word of mouth helped them snowball into bona fide superstars by the end of the decade. Jared, two things I want you to look up. Find out whenever Live 8 was, because I know they played this. They played New Year's Day, Sunday, Bloody Sunday, in front of everybody at Wembley. But this is the first album with strong political themes dealing with the human effects of war, suffering, loss, and the constant reminder of mortality. this is so heavy.
They're
Which
not fucking
shrouds,
around.
they are not fucking around, which shrouds daily life during wartime. Massive success for the band. It dethroned Michael Jackson's Thriller to become the #1 album in the UK and U2's first
Wow.
gold certified
Crazy.
record.
It's amazing, right?
Well, I think it's because I think the reason it's amazing is because there's nothing like this right now. Everything is more
Right.
pop. You're coming off
You're
this
right.
new wave, and then you have this serious band. And dude, they're cool. They're cool looking. The edge is cool. The name's cool. Bono.
100%.
He's got the mullet with he's got the really good hair mullet. He's a good looking dude, and he's a performer.
I know.
And I think you'll agree with this. There is a passion in his voice when he sings that doesn't feel over. It doesn't feel like it's put on. It feels like he really is. Like there's another guy that does that, Eddie Vedder. That when he sings, everything you feel earnest. You feel the passion of it. Whereas and not to shit on some other acts, but like a Scott Stapp, it feels a little inauthentic. Like they're adding it, which is nothing against Creed. I love Creed. Scott, you're my
that's
homie.
fine. That's fine. It's just a feeling, and that's valid.
It's just, exactly. So when did you really start becoming a fan of this band? Then was it just the Joshua Tree?
I would say Sunday Bloody Sunday is like definitely and I'm sure I heard other stuff by them along the way. My friend John Thomas, when I was growing up, was deep into what was going to be called alternative music. So we listened to a lot of stuff, and I'm sure early U2 would have been in there just because it's just right in that zone. It's just right in that post-punk zone. Obviously, not as well known. Like I don't think people say U2. Well, what genre, and I don't think many people say post-punk. I think most people will say U2, like it's rock, it's alternative rock, was I guess where it would get grouped, but it wouldn't be post-punk necessarily. Whereas, so I just did a podcast yesterday with Budgie and LOL from LOL's from The Cure, and Budgie's from Susie and the Banshees, the drummer.
Oh, dope!
And
cool.
I was so glad because like I'm such a huge fan. Like those two bands are huge for me in my like musical development or whatever. But they definitely, you would call them post-punk. Like still to this day, you would call them post-punk. And so it's like U2 flirted with it, and there were elements of it in that punk music which obviously post-punk, the punk and post-punk. Punk music arose as a counterculture, right? To like, it was just something that pushed directly against what was happening in the mainstream. And then you got post-punk, which was kind of like an artier version, but with the same spirit, but a little bit more abstract and conceptual at times, and accessible in a way, and more accessible. And then you had U2, which kind of flirted with it, but then they just kind of was like, no, we're going to be inspired by American music. Like they really got into the American rock, American folk music thing more and more. It was a very interesting. They're an interesting band. Like there's definitely no band that's ever been like them. They're like singular. Singular as Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Oh, whereas Led Zeppelin came out and that first record changed everything. I don't think U2 right off the jump became as big as Led Zeppelin was. But on the scale of massiveness, I think it's fair to say that like U2 went from moderate cult status to being a mainstream band with this record. It's like this is the record. What was it like? Let me ask you this. What was it like to go from being a cult success to being on a late night talk show, which is pretty much a mainstream gig?
I mean, it's weird. It really wasn't. I don't remember it feeling that much different, because the only thing that really changes is the quality of production is different. Like you've got dedicated professionals that are super niche, that are all working collectively to make this show happen. So I would say like the resolution of the production level definitely increased, to 8K.
It's like, oh my God, there's craft service.
Like, what? I
can have fruit snacks
all you do is
anytime.
wrap wires. It's like, that's all you do. You just wrap wires. Oh, you just follow a camera guy and make sure his cable's coiled. Like that's all you do. You know what I mean? Like it's so like there's an art form and a craft to everything in that show, and this kind of dignity of work that you can feel, where there's this respect and dignity, and there's like, work ethic, and it's definitely a different vibe. Whereas Comedy Bang Bang was more like, it started as a non-union show, and which I preferred that vibe much more. Honestly, nothing against unions. It just was more adaptable.
Sure.
Like, we need to shoot this shot. Okay, well, I'll do camera and you do this. And like, okay, cool. And it's like, no problem. You can just kind of be more collaborative. And obviously where unions come in is when people feel like they're being taken advantage of. But that didn't quite happen, but it did flip in the middle of shooting, which was pretty insane. Like, to be on set shooting, it was like one of the biggest, most expensive shots we had ever done, like where I'm this undercover cop and I'm running in slow motion with a camera on a slider, or not a slider, but on rails, and it's like following me, and I'm getting shot with squibs, and it's all slow motion. Like, we just shot that scene, and then they're like, production's closing down. It flipped, and we're like, what? And then I just remember calling my manager going, can you book a flight back to New York immediately? And then like within 2 hours, I was on a flight back home. That was crazy.
But how do you keep, because there's a, and I don't want to call what you do absurd at all, but like, how do you keep that, what's the right word? You have a thing that is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's special. That is different. How do you keep that while still appealing to this wider audience on something, on moving into this, onto a talk show on a, what do you call it? Like on CBS?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I really didn't change much. I mean, I just kind of like kept doing what I was doing. I mean, I'd gone on tour with Conan O'Brien, for his only tour that he did.
Yeah.
Legally prohibited from being on television tour. And that was amazing. And that was obviously like me interacting kind of with, because Conan also is someone that he's got like underground cred, like he
does. Yeah.
He appeals to all my friends, even my Gen Z friends. So everybody's got mad respect for him. And they view him as like, out of all the late night hosts, like he's the dopest. He's like the coolest. He was around, whatever. But doing that was kind of like me being in front of kind of mainstream audiences. And I didn't really notice that much of a difference. So I think that's kind of something that I've always been, which is even when I was in high school and I was performing a version of what I do now on stage in competitive drama, I would do the competitive drama, and I would, you'd be in front of like teachers and other people who are judging you in other towns and high schools over weekends, and you're competing against other schools. And so you'd get to like, if you got to finals, and it was like really huge and kind of a big energy. And then I remember trying out for a stand-up comedy contest to win a prize, and I won it. I got first, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was like $500 or something like that. And it was an amazing feeling, but that was kind of elevated as well. And then like being in Seattle in the 90s and playing in a band, and like, getting to open for Dave Matthews and Earth, Wind and Fire and these types of bands.
Wait, whoa. You opened up for Dave Matthews and Earth, Wind and Fire?
I don't see that in my research.
Yeah, well, this is not in any of our fucking notes. The fuck, Adam? What the fuck?
Man, God damn it. Yeah, well, you know what? You can't win all the time.
I know. Jesus.
Can't win all the time.
What if he was like, now's the part of the podcast where we all put on our Apple iVision, and I will take you there.
Guys, are you synced? Press the button. No, well, my band Mocktube was a band that kind of got up there in popularity in the Northwest, and we were kind of like a funk soul rock band, kind of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say well, it's kind of funk, but like kind of a cross between like just rock and soul. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And a tiny splash of dub, a splash of trip hop, whatever. But we were playing a lot, and we were getting some recognition in the Northwest. And so when larger bands would come through, sometimes we'd be the band that would be asked to open up for these things. So I think we opened up for India RE at one point.
I remember her. Yeah.
We opened it up for Dave Matthews because there was a cancellation of an opener, so we played the Tacoma Dome. We opened, and I remember getting on stage. This was crazy. I remember this in a long time, but we were playing on stage, and it's just like a massive stage. It's like Dave Matthews has giant shows, so the stage was huge, and I was like, wow, it's taking me a long time to get to that microphone. But like getting on stage, band playing songs, whatever, we were all like, holy shit, we're fucking playing this, this huge show. And it wasn't like full, you know how it is for opening bands. Let's say it was like half full, which is still a shit ton it's more people than we'd ever played for.
Yeah.
And I just remember like starting to sing, and at one point I started dancing. And when I started dancing, there was this from the crowd, and I was like, whoa, that's heavy. Like that thing, that
People are
they all
freaking out.
like this. Yeah, it's like, oh, they like this. That's so cool. Like, like I'd never experienced that before, and on that level, And so yeah, so we got to, so I had like enough moments that were like large, a lot of people, whatever moments. I think that by the time I started focusing on comedy and got to the comedy Bang Bang or whatever area, I had been kind of accustomed to it. The only difference was like cameras, like production, like a TV production. That was new to me, even though I knew how it worked, but I hadn't worked on a TV show. And then to be on a TV show, oh, okay, oh, I see how this works. And then suddenly you graduate to a kind of a real version of the absurd version of what you were just on.
Yeah.
And that was insane. I mean, to just go like, oh, we were just doing an impression of what now I am doing. I'm doing the real thing, but I'm doing an impression of a person, a band leader. I'm doing like an impression of it. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like I'm a band leader, but I never thought of myself as a band leader, like the whole time filming Corden.
No, I love that. But speaking of, it's like the evolution, to bring it back to you too.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to do these segues.
No. Keep us on track. I like it.
Well, no, so you got to, I want to, because there's only so much that I could talk about this record. It's like, I'd rather know about you, because that's why this show works, everybody. It works because it's a mishmash of everything. Yeah. All right, so this album,
sincere.
Was a commercial success, becoming #1 hit in the UK and number 12 in the United States. It became the band's first album gold certified, sold over 3 million copies, generally favorable reviews, although some British journalists criticized it. The album was titled War for several reasons. In 82, Bono said, war seemed to be the motive for 1982, adding that everywhere you looked, from the Falklands to the Middle East and South Africa, there was war. By calling the album War, we're giving people a slap in the face and at the same time getting away from the cozy image of a lot of people have of U2. Has anybody cozy image of U2?
I don't know about cozy image. That doesn't jibe.
There's nothing.
Or he's got a different definition of cozy.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like I never want to see Slash in anything other than leather pants and like a cutoff shirt with like a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Like I don't want to see Slash from Guns N' Roses in Lululemon. But I also don't want to see. I don't think anybody has ever seen Bono in anything other than like a John Varvatos jacket, the big glasses. There's nothing cozy. They don't wear dude, he was fully dressed throughout all of COVID.
He was
fully dressed.
Guy. Yeah. No, yes, you're right. 100% during COVID. Like that guy just never. Yeah, he's never seen not like how you see him. Yeah. All of them are like that too. All of them are like that. The whole band.
All of them. Yeah,
they all look like how they look like when you see them on stage.
Always. Always, and that's what I think we love about this band. I think that's one of the main things. They are heavy, they are blunt, and that is what Edge said about this record. He did think that this could backfire. Edge didn't think that this was going to be as well received as it became because of the subject matter. He says it's a lot of people. It's going to give them a lot of room to dislike this, but they wanted to approach this in a more dangerous course, fly a little bit closer to the wind, and so they think the title was appropriate. This album. And the major reason for War being arguably harsher than the band's previous records is that Edge uses far less delay and echo than in his previous work. And
interesting.
And I love this about Edge because that was one of my favorite things about There Might Be Noise. I think it was There Might Be Noise, the doc with him and Jack White and Jimmy Page. Edge is a guitarist that is unlike anybody else. And he's known for being this guy that utilizes technology. And then so do you. So I want to ask you, when did you become such a fan? I mean, obviously, the way we even started it today with you having the Apple goggles on, you love gadgets and technology. So when did that start?
I think since I was born.
Yeah.
You know, I just love gadgets, machines, tools. Like I've just always been fascinated by it because those devices, they represent possibilities, like extended possibilities, you know, that we don't normally have. Obviously, technology also includes being able to make a branch into a slingshot. You know, technology is knowing how to get clean water out of certain leaves, you know, or like knowing which berries to eat. Like that's also technology. So I will include that too. I'm pretty geeky about that. But on the synthetic technology side of things, for sure, I just always, there's never been a time, I guess, since I was a kid, like I had to like take apart my toys, you know, like unscrew them, put all the screws in like a pattern so I know how to put it back together or whatever, and just like open it up carefully and look at, you know, I love knowing how shit works. You know, it's like I get off on that so hard. So that's kind of like where it came from. And of course, like with music, I mean, I messed around with tape recorders a little bit when I was like 7 or 8. I had like one of those, you know, those long with the cassette on the top and then the transport buttons in the front. There's like a little handle you can, so I would like mess around with that and kind of hear my voice back. I hope someday if I clean my garage or whatever that I might run into a cassette from that time period. It's so cool to hear my voice because I have no recordings of my voice when I was younger.
Really?
And, no recordings at all.
Even the music you did with the early band. You have that, okay?
But I don't have 7-year-old me or 8-year-old me or 10-year-old me, like, you know, or even junior high. You know, like I don't have any of that. I have photos and I have some videos that my parents took, but it was on Super 8 and it doesn't come with sound.
But my dad used to have the same the audio cassette recorder that you were talking about, the long one with the handle, and he used to just put a tape in, hit record, and let it sit out at family functions, like when we were all like my grandmother and my great aunt. They just be talking and telling stories, and you could hear me and my sister running by. There's something there. You know, I was very similar with technology. I just wish, you know, I would take apart stuff. But I mean, we were also like so in a certain position financially that whatever I got, I had to like hold on to. So the idea of like breaking it for fun or like, let me just see what it's like in there. It's like you do that once and breaks, and then you're like, Mom, can you buy me a new thing because I took this apart? And they're like, yeah. We can't afford that. You're like, okay, I won't be taking anything apart ever again. All right, what are some of the heavy things, Jer, about this record? Not even heavy, but what are the important things we need to talk about in this record? While you say that, I gotta grab a water.
Well, Sunday Bloody Sunday has so many things in it. I mean, the 1983 release, but this was like there's 2 different Sunday Bloody Sundays and Irish history. The second was in 1972, which is when British troops killed 13 Irish citizens. But the Edge of said it's not just about that particular moment. It's about the ongoing, you know, problems of, you know, government, institutions like, you know, forcing things on people and people saying like, I've had enough. I've had enough of the bitterness and hate.
And
What's the point? Yeah, occupation. The real battle is people dying, according to Edge. So I think that was like kind of the main takeaway from that. The second track, which I haven't, just in listening to the album, is pretty good, but it was a staple of U2 set list until 1985 when it disappeared from their live shows for almost 4 decades, and it just come back now with the Sphere in the Vegas residency. I was expecting, Josh, you to do the show from the Sphere today. You're in Vegas. Am I wrong?
What the fuck? How the fuck am I going to get there, dude? I was at the gym. 10 minutes after we were supposed to be recording, and then you called me 5 times. Dude, I thought this was at 4 p.m. Hold on, let me let me go to the Sphere. Yeah, have you been there? Rich? Have you been there already? Have you seen the show?
No, I've seen the quarter scale demonstrator that they have in Burbank, of the Sphere technology. So I kind of know what it's like. It's fucking insane. The audio technology is fucking stupid. It's like they're using like hypersonic. I think it's not hypersonic. Maybe it's called hypersonic. Anyways, it's oh no, is it ultra? It's not ultrasonic. Anyways, it's this beam wave technology, so they can create these really thin slices of audio that only occupy this area. So if you're not here, you're not hearing it. You're not here, you're not hearing it. You're starting to hear it. You hear it, and they can be super accurate at a good distance. So they can fill that entire space with sound in a way that no other place on the planet can do. So I whether it's great or not, I don't know, but having that ability, that's just a matter of creativity.
What an incredible triumph for the band to be able to really. I don't want to say this is the end of their careers right now, but they are getting older, and to have, like we kept saying, they have remade themselves and keep taking themselves to a place that you're like, I think U2's plateaued. Nope, they're bigger now, and they just did this. Nope, they're bigger now. Even the record after this, and I still have shit to talk about in this, but it's like the live album that followed this, it was basically captured the war tour, as well as the video recording of them playing at Red Rock was all over MTV. Really showed the power of the band to a lot of people that wouldn't have been aware of them before. I wanted to ask you, what has been your biggest triumph?
Gosh, what would it be? Wow. I don't know. I guess I would say probably, to a degree, I guess winning the Andy Kaufman Award, that would have been like,
that's cool.
Pretty dope.
When was that? That was, is that in Edinburgh? That's not Edinburgh, is it?
No, New York.
Okay.
It was like at Caroline's. It was like 2007, something like that. 2006 or 2007. And that was just really cool because I wasn't like a massive Andy Kaufman fan, but I obviously knew him from Taxi growing up. But learning more about what he did as kind of a televised performance artist, he really was doing incredible things, and then to enter the contest and go through that entire process and surviving it, and coming out with something, and then like getting to sit down with Andy's dad when he writes out the check to you. Like it's just like a tradition of like when the winner will like go out to this kind of like no one's around place with a table and 2 chairs, and then he writes out a check and he tells you stories about Andy. And he told me a story about Andy getting a letter from a terminally ill girl who had some form of terminal cancer, and he wrote back, and then he did a gig that was kind of, her town was on the way back from a gig, and so he decided to just cold stop over at that house because he had the address, because it was like fan mail, and knocks on the door, and they open it up, and it's him, And they're like, what? And he's like, where's, like, let me say, is whatever her name is, is she here? And they're like, yeah, she's there. They call her, and they spend like 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, like hanging out at the house, having snacks, him like joking it up all the time, him like them having a wrestling match and him letting her win the wrestling match and all this stuff. And then him leaving, and then when she was in the hospital and she was close to dying, he came and visited her again. And I was like, wow, if that's
wow,
if that's where I'm coming from, or if I'm a part of that lineage, then
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And and there's like, he's one of the most important people in comedy, the birth of what you would ever even call alt, what you ever call alt. And I don't even know if I'd call it, but it was just so different than what was happening at the time. So yeah, that's great, man. All right. You know what else I found? We mentioned it earlier because we don't have a lot of time with you. So I want to jump into some of these. I have some good questions here. This is a heavy one. The first record we mentioned earlier, Boy, was about young men dealing with growing. Their second record, October, was about spirituality and the search for meaning. And this record deals with battles, both literally in the real world and also emotionally between people. How do you deal with conflict resolution? And maybe what are some of the worst fights or battles you've ever had? If you don't mind talking about them.
No, not at all. I mean, well, conflict resolution definitely is, I don't know, my style is, it's dependent on the situation, but usually I try to kind of communicate as much as possible about like it being, not that I'm pissed at someone, but I'm disappointed in the situation, or I'll like add like, I know that you're probably a good person, or something like that in there, and that you're in this moment not behaving the best, or whatever it is. I'll try to, without sounding condescending. But then sometimes like, gatekeepers, like people who like security guards, and just literal like bouncers and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I have respect for them totally, because I know it's a hard job, it's a difficult job. But when I'm trying to get into a space that I'm supposed to be in, and I'm having trouble getting in, and they're not critically thinking in order to solve the problem, and they're just being flat out, no, you can't come in. That's when I can kind of get a little bit dickish, and that's
what, like Killer Mike's, Killer Mike situation at the Grammys.
Yeah, that probably would have been me. That could have been me easily, because I'm just like, so you're saying that I have to go around through all these people over here and then back around to the other side to access that area that I can just see right now, that's just across, and I just won an award here. I was invited as a guest, and I still can't do that. And they're just like, no. Like that's when I'm like, oh, I don't know why, but it just really gets me. And that's when I can be like, you're being unreasonable, or like, you don't have to be such a dick. It's like, I have to go, blah, blah, I might say something like that. But I also usually come back and apologize. Which I almost start crying when I do.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, I'm really sorry, man. I know it's hard. And I was just like, and they're just like, what is he doing?
I'm a sensitive artist. Leave me alone.
Oh God, so sensitive.
Oh man. We already mentioned, this is a good question, so I got to ask this. We already mentioned that this record knocked Thriller off the top spot, which is a staggering and intimidating feat. It's insane.
It's insane.
Who is the most intimidating person you've ever met or gotten nervous meeting when you were either working on James Corden or just in life as an artist at a party? Like, who gave me
Intimidate. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, like most people that if I was intimidated and I meet them, then I'm less intimidated. But I definitely think it would have been maybe, yeah, maybe Brian Eno when I met him.
Wow, yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
bet.
yeah, and we started I mean, like I mean, I call it a friendship. He booked me for 4 of the festivals that he was, curating. And I
Cool.
was a guest at all 4 of those. And so, and would hang out with him and his flat in Notting Hill and whatever. Like I performed for both of his daughter's birthday parties.
Okay.
Like there's just a lot of stuff. He drove me to the airport. It's like, I would say that we're friends, but it took me
Sounds
a
like you're
long
friends.
time. Yeah, it just took me a long time to view it that way though. Because it's, like you meet him and you're like, you're Brian Eno. He worked with you too. Like
Oh yeah.
you know, uh you're Brian Eno, like you coined the phrase. I'm sure someone else may have mentioned it too, but he's the guy that's attributed to the coining the phrase ambient music.
Yeah.
And the concept of studio as an instrument, and things of that nature, and then like creating oblique strategies, the cards that are kind of meant when you have a block, you can kind of go through them to kind of unblock your creativity or whatever. Like just so much stuff that dude has done, and the mystique of him, and the fact that he was involved with David Bowie, and like I mean he's part of that legion of hyper influencers from the 70s. And anyways, it took me a while to go, oh, you're Brian Eno, Brian Eno. Oh, Brian Eno is just a dude. He's just like a guy. He wears earplugs like I do.
Yeah. But
And he loves music.
but I mean, dude,
and he's curious.
But dude, you're talking about, one of the, Roxy Music, Another Green World. I mean, dude, we've broken down. We did Brian Eno, I think twice on this podcast. Excuse me. And,
oh, wow.
And my guests for each episode were Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction, and Gerald Casale from Devo. And I mean, I went to both.
I know him too.
Yeah, I went to both, and I went to both of their houses to record it. And it's like, and with Gerald, it was great because Gerald was so like, he's such a good guy and very smart. When we did the Perry interview, which was great. It was, it was right before the pandemic. It was right, like Trump was a president, and Perry comes down and just he will not stop talking about Trump. He's just like, and there's kids in cages, man. And I'm just like, yeah, but Brian Eno.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I've been using the questions, and the way that I do shit here, I'm trying to like spin it. I was like, kids in cages, much like much like the audio was in the cages in the studio, right? And then this is one of my favorite stories. At the end of the podcast, he goes outside to smoke a joint, and I go, hey man, do you mind if I join you? And he says, yeah, come on out, man. And we're sitting out there, we're sitting down. I have pictures of this, and I say to him, I go, hey man, how much CNN and MSNBC are you watching? And he goes, all day long. And I go, bro, you got to turn it off. It's like there's nothing we can do other than just voting and trying to get the word out. But just dude, you've got to turn it off. You'll be so much happier. And he goes,
yes,
thank you, man. This is the best thing. He goes, thank you, man. He goes, do you want to go jump on my trampoline? And I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. We jumped on a trampoline.
It never gets, it's like, you just stay. That's always going to be with you. When you have that childish connection to your, you know what I mean?
Oh, he hasn't lost that. He's definitely kept that. And I think with all the success, it's that's the thing is that like I would love to see Bono, on a fucking trampoline, The Edge on a trampoline, but it's like this record I feel is. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say that this isn't their best record by any means. We already have established Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby. Those are very, very important records. And then of course, the one that they did that really brought him back in the early 2000s. But I feel like this is like almost the thesis statement for the rest of their careers. Like this is like all right, this is who we are. We're going to be writing heady shit, and our music's going to be has a message and a point. And you can love us or hate us, but this is what we're going to be. And people needed it. We needed an artist like that. They needed somebody. Whether Sunday Bloody Sunday is about the British troops in Dublin, it doesn't make a difference. We feel what's going on in that song. The second you hear that drum, you hear that. It's like it's almost like it was like the marching song going into war. And,
completely.
And I think that is what is special about this record, and I think that's why they were able to take Thriller and just which is the greatest pop record ever
pop record
made.
for sure. Yeah,
but this is too. This is a great pop. There's pop. This is I'm not gonna say every track, but Sunday Bloody Sunday is a closer or an opener. New Year's Day, a closer or an opener. Fucking. Two Hearts Beat as One. It's about him and his wife. I mean, that's great. It's such a powerful record from a powerful band, and I think this is that moment in their career where they could have gone like this or that, and they just took off from this. What other bands have had such a from their first two records? Yeah, just meteoric from their third record on. I mean, like
Devo.
Really? Devo wasn't popular after their first record?
I think Devo was known, for their first record, but I think Devo hit it big with Whip It, right? That was like was the first hit that at least that when I was a kid and I was like watching MTV all the time, that's the first Devo song that I was exposed to because that video, and the video was like super hot. Had the hot, sexy elements to it, especially for a young kid, and the song was just so good. But they had other songs. I mean, those guys. I think it's what was Whip It on?
Whip It, was that on Permission, or is that what the record's called? Because I know the first record, and I've listened to like kind of like this is
Freedom
Devo,
Choice,
but
right.
Freedom of Choice,
third album.
That's their third album. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of a similar thing. It's like they were doing, they were an art rock band and basically, but they also, actually they had a manifesto. It was kind of an arty interpretation of a manifesto, but they believed in it, which is devolution. They believed in their kind of anti-corporate, anti-totalitarian, and very much like freedom of choice, anti-consumerist, and kind of slightly anti-capitalistic, and so they definitely had something, but they were approaching it from like a more of an art angle of that kind of artistic protest. But they also were like, there's no one that even remotely will ever come close to what Devo is. Like Devo is like, to me, it's like,
that's
like that's ultimately, out of all the bands that exist that I love, I'd have to say Devo, and maybe it alternates with like two others, but I'd say Devo is definitely top band because of their individuality. They didn't make any compromises. They did everything exactly the way they wanted to do, and no one could tell them any better because no one knew how they are what they are. And so they were undeniably themselves. So they just had to be trusted, no matter what. And the fact that they had so many hits is such a weird band, but they had like 4 major hits at least. That's fucking insane. So
you opened up for them in 2009. I saw.
I did. I did open up for them. Yeah.
On tour. Yeah.
Was
that a dream? How did that come together? Was that?
I don't know. I think maybe they found me, which was like huge honor, obviously, or maybe I was submitted by my booking agent at the time. I don't know, but I couldn't believe it, And it was when they had Josh Freese was the only non-original member.
Oh, cool.
He's been on the podcast. He's a buddy of mine. I love. I went to see them at Pier 17 in New York City, and what I love about Josh is that he I don't know what they were like before Josh live, but man, does he turn them into a rock concert. Like his drumming is so
he's the engine.
Oh my God. And I could see that like Mark and Gerald and the rest of the band are feeding off of his drums to the point where it's like, oh, it's a different band.
I mean, they're still one of the best bands you'll ever see live.
I mean, it's such a good dude.
Like, still,
I feel like Devo's a band, you know, are they in? I don't think they are into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I know they deserve to be.
They don't need to be. They don't need to be. I mean, yes,
they should though. They should be. They should be, dude. Their cover. They did a cover right. Their cover of "Satisfaction" by Rolling Stones is like one of the best versions of it. Yeah.
I would take that version over. I mean, that drum beat, it's like a reverse drum beat. It sounds like it's going backwards. It's like and it's so like unga bunga caveman beat. I love that shit. I love like cave person beats. You know, like that thing, and then you're hearing that do 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 do. And the guitar just going. I mean, it's so fucking like angular alien. It's like what aliens think that song sounds like. That's It's like this is what it should sound like. You know, well, I don't know. Anyways, that should. Fucking as a kid, I was like, "What's happening right now?" Yeah,
they should be. They should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. And I do vote on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh shit! It's like, get them on there.
I'm one man. I'm one man.
Tell them I want it.
I voted for him. All right. Well, then why aren't you? You should be voting on it too.
Outside vote. I get like they have to allow one outside vote. I'll be the outside vote.
You should be. Voting on it, because you know, if I can vote on it, you should be able to vote on it as well, because I got recommended by Tom Murillo because of the podcast and because we're buddies, and I think he was trying to pad Rage. I think he really wanted Rage to be in there, which they deserve. I mean, everybody, dude, Devo deserves you too. I don't know if they are in there already, but they should be if they're. Jeremiah, check that. Check that while I look up, because I got to wrap this up. So let me. Here's the where's the whole shit?
They went in.
Okay, where's the whole thing about their fucking career that Adam always writes, where they've done this and they've sold that? Where is that, Jer?
The accolades. It's up near the top.
They've released 15. What do you have?
Yeah. Just a gratuitous James Corden question.
Oh, well, yeah.
You probably didn't ask a ton about it, but. When you got the news that he was done, like, was a part of you happy?
Oh yeah, I was hyper stoked.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
maybe you're already on record about that. I was just curious. Like, you were like, TV is a lot of work, right?
No, I mean, here's the thing. It's like we knew that. I mean, when he first asked me to do the show, he was kind of joking, but kind of serious that he thought that the show was going to be around for about 5 years. And the show ended up going 8.5 years, which isn't that far off the mark. And it's definitely less than most late night shows would last. So I think there was kind of an accuracy to that. And so I was kind of already preloaded for it. Also, I didn't want to be doing it. Like, I don't want to be a career band leader. That wasn't my, I'm super stoked and like happy and hyper lucky to have gotten offered that job and to get the job, and it really leveled up all kinds of things, you know. And so I'm hyper appreciative of it. I definitely don't want to like come off as like I'm like, oh, I had to do this thing, and
of course
it wasn't that. I was stoked to do it. I'm glad. It was like I designed the system, you know. I designed how the band worked. I designed how we would make the music, and they let me do that, and it fucking worked. And that was like, yeah, oh, that's fucking great. I did something there, you know. And then it just kind of became, you know, a thing. You know, like you show up and you're doing it. And it's just kind of a similar thing. And definitely fun times. That band that I put together, the best people in the world, and we were like constantly joking and talking shit the whole time during shows and during performances, and it was a fun time. I mean, unless the performance was like insane, you knew something was good when no one was saying shit. That was the cool thing. But so that happened probably 5 times.
Yeah,
most of the music we got through there was like mid, and just kind of like corporate music,
For
you know.
sure.
Anyways, but like people like they would announce like platinum, multi-platinum selling so and so, and I'd be like, who the fuck is that? Like Glarp Wilson. And it was like it seemed like every night it was like, yeah, they got Glarp Wilson. It's like Snivnot. What's Snivnot? Oh no, it's like some weird, like he was discovered on TikTok via 4chan. I don't know. But like, you know, these like artists, which I'm not discounting, it's great. It's good. Good job, guys, who did it. But like, I'm just saying, like, for us who were all Gen Xers and like grew up listening to fucking when pop music had sick bands in there, like, or top 40 had the sickest of the sickest bands, and because of the era and because of the technological whatever, there's a lot of like things that made it that way. It's not just like back then, but it's just true. And in general, so we've now come through like whatever. But after a while, I was just kind of going, oh no, this is kind of turned into a job kind of thing, which is fine. And I wasn't getting grumpy, but I was definitely getting a little, I can't wait to be out of here, which is stupid because I'm there for 2 hours. Like I whittled down the time that I had to be there to 2 hours. Like I got it into that zone. And so I really had nothing to complain about, but it was in my way in the sense of like I couldn't like go to Berlin and do an art project for 4 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
I could, whatever. But it was a sick job, paid really well. Everyone was cool. They treated us really well. James always treated us really well. Everything was positive and swell. But then when he invited me into his with me and the band into the office and told us that he was going to give us a year, till he's letting everybody know, but we'll have a year to prepare. I was like, great. So for a year we knew, and I was stoked about it. And there's definitely emotional moments and things like that. And I'm super appreciative of people. But as soon as like it was over, I was just out. You know, I was gone, and now I'm like hyper stoked to be able to just do things like this.
Yeah, that's the best app. And it also just like have the experience, and you get to work on a show, you know, pad your bank account and just be like get comfortable. And now it's like work on the projects that you want to work on, which I think all of us are excited to see everything that you do. Much like, oh yeah, the book.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Promote it.
Oh yeah, I have a book. It's an autobiography called Great Falls, Montana: Post-Punk Weirdos and a Tale of Coming Home Again. And it's just about my life, like how I became the person I am. It focuses mostly on my high school years and the circle of friends that I ran into, all my like new wave weirdo friends. But it definitely talks about my childhood, talks about my parents, like it fills in the stuff, but it's kind of spends more time there. And then I loosely talk about Seattle, loosely talk about New York, because I'm planning on doing a Seattle book and a New York book.
I love that.
Hence the title.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
That's the idea. So anyways, it's a fun book. There's also an audiobook version that I read, so you can check that out too.
Get it,
QR
dude.
codes.
Dope.
Dude, technology. Love that technology. We talked about that. God, I have like such phlegm in my throat. All right.
Oh, yeah.
This is the third of 5 times we're going to be talking about you two on the 500. Still to come are Achtung Baby. Achtung Baby, we're going to do March 24th, 2027. And then coming in, that's at number 63. And then Joshua Tree at number 27, which will be December 1st, 2027. We've already done Boy with Phoebe Robinson. Verdas did All That You Can Leave Behind. And on the 2020 re-rank, Achtung Baby drops to 124 and Joshua Tree drops to 135. So these records, this one and the other two, do not make the cut on the 2020 re-rank. I mean, you know, that's a different list. I do think the Achtung and Joshua Tree are the two.
Yes.
The meat and potatoes of the spit. Yeah, those are the anchors.
That's the anchors to the legacy.
But but like I said, this is a great record, and to get us to talk about it and be able to sit down with you, I can't wait to see what you come back and do in a few years, because you get carte blanche, so you can just look over the list and then you just tell us who you want to talk about. We ask everybody these questions. I'm excited to hear your answers. What is your favorite song on this record?
Oof. God, I want to make sure I'm not missing one that I forgot about. Hold on here. Oh, that's right. It's not on there because they're only on Apple Music.
I got it here.
Okay. Damn my. Oh, is it there? Yeah, here we go. Wall. Okay. I do like New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I have to say a little, I mean, Sunday Bloody Sunday is dope, but it kind of got overexposed in a way. But New Year's Day is fucking great.
I love that song. I'm gonna go Sunday Bloody Sunday. I think what's a perfect album opener. You can open with the show with it. You can close the show with it. It is a powerful song. New Year's Day, same, but definitely SBS. What is your least favorite song, or what song do you skip over on this record?
Maybe Surrender. Or no,
okay.
What's the one before Surrender?
Red Light.
Red Light.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. No, that was my song. All right, can you fuck to this record?
I think you could. It's a different style, like not the style of how you're doing it, but it's just like the vibe of it, like just the
vibe is there.
Of it.
Sure,
it's there. It's just like it's more like we're doing this. You know, like it's a little bit more like we're fucking doing this. You know, it would be like listening to like the Sex Pistols or something like that. You know, it's like it inherently does sound like it should be sex music, but most people are not going to think about having sex to punk.
Get rid of the lyrics, and musically, this is a fuckable record. Right from that,
for sure.
Boom. Then the Edge's guitar, very sexy. You know, when he's like, Ireland and the blood that spills on the land that flies, and that's when it goes. That's when it turns into Brandon Boyd. Yeah. What he said with Brandon Boyd from Incubus said, he goes, yeah, dude. He's like, you can fuck to Jeff Buckley. But he's like, but the music, it's like once you hear his voice, it just takes you out of it because you want to pay attention. You want to pay attention to what the Bono's saying. The Bono.
Yeah.
All right.
The Bono.
The Bono.
It's what the Edge, the Bono.
If the Bono Edge, what would be your nickname? What would be yours?
The Reg. No.
The
Reg. I don't know, Lucian.
I like that.
That's my middle
name. I like
name,
that.
So.
Oh, that's great. I'd be Jawa. Jawa. Jawa,
like
yeah.
That's good.
What would be if you had to tell somebody to listen to this record, what's your pitch? What's your pitch to get someone to listen to this record?
I'd be like, hey, just fucking listen to it. But I would be like the intensity, the way I say it. You know, just be like, just fucking listen to this shit, and then be like, okay, Jesus, you know, that's how I would do it.
I think that is 100% listen to this record, but I think the best way to sum up this record would be you give your answer, and I'm like, what are you looking for? I was going to say, let me see if I can. I tell you, this is what you're going to catch. You're going to see. This is the reason when it felt like the band decided to become one of the biggest bands in the world. And I think this album is the starting point of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and because I think U2 is an epic band, and I mean just the way that there's nobody else that could be doing the Sphere first than them, and I see it. It's right over there, and it's incredible. And I'm gonna go during the surgery when I have time off. That's what I've decided. I'm gonna come see the Sphere. I'm having vocal cord surgery at the end of this month. Yeah.
Are they gonna shave down the calluses?
Yeah, they're going to take the node off, and I have some scar tissue, but it's just going to get my power back because it just gets really tired at the end of the night.
I get you. Yeah.
Too much, all of it. But great stuff. Can't wait. I'm nervous to have 6 weeks off doing.
I know you're going to be nervous. That's heavy. I understand. Yeah. It's going to be heavy because that's who you are. That's who you express.
It is who I am.
So I get it.
But luckily, Reg, it's the second time I've done it, so that's good. Shit. Yeah, okay. So I know what to expect. It's like
so you're just prone to getting calluses.
I've gotten, dude. It's this time is more scar tissue because dude, it's just I beat them, dude. Yeah, I beat them up, and so now I take care of them, but the damage is already done. So if I do it now and then just keep doing the taking care of it, I shouldn't have this issue for the rest of my career. So, but dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. Reggie, I love having you on anytime you want to come on. We'd love to have you. Please promote away, because we already said the book, but what else, where people can find you or what?
They can find me. I'm filming a comedy special.
Nice.
For
I'm going.
Veeps. Oh yeah. That's right. March 3rd at the Regent Theater in Los Angeles. Yeah, and there'll be 2 tapings, and the only rule is you have to dress up like it's 1998 or earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, Jay, you better get your outfit together. Reggie, thank you, brother. Please, everybody support Reggie Watts. Dude, you're the man. Thank you so much. Have fun playing with the Apple goggles, okay?
Oh, man. I'm going in right now.
Dude, go ahead. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks. The Reg. Appreciate you, man.
The Reg.